I wish you were never born. Those 7 words sliced through me, right there in the coat check room, a mere 15 minutes before my mother's extravagant 50th birthday party collapsed around us. My entire world shattered, and I knew, in that instant, there was no turning back. The grand ballroom of the Grandview Country Club, usually buzzing with laughter, had fallen into a deathly silence. 70 guests, all people I'd known my entire life, stood frozen, champagne flutes still raised, their conversations abruptly cut short. My younger sister, Sophia, was the first to recover, her face flushing crimson. "Evelyn, you're being dramatic." Catherine didn't mean it like that. But Catherine had meant exactly that. Her perfectly manicured fingers had gripped my wrist so hard it left marks, her venomous whisper echoing in my ears. I scanned the shocked faces in the ballroom. My father, David, stood near the dessert table, a strange mix of shock and maybe even relief on his face. Uncle Robert pretended to check his phone, while Aunt Michelle dabbed at her eyes with a cocktail napkin. "I mean every word," I stated, my voice surprisingly steady, cutting through the silence. "From this moment forward, I release all of you from any obligation to acknowledge my existence. No phone calls, no holidays, no birthdays. I'm removing myself from this family completely." Sophia stepped forward, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. "You can't just walk away because Mom said something in anger. Family doesn't work that way." A humorless laugh escaped me. Family doesn't work at all when only one person is doing the work. I've spent 30 years trying to earn a love that was never going to come. Growing up, I genuinely believed the distance between Catherine and me was temporary. A phase that would pass once I proved myself worthy. Sophia, 3 years younger, had always been the golden child, inheriting Catherine's delicate features and David's athletic build. She had their natural charm, their ease in social situations, their effortless ability to navigate country clubs and charity galas. I, on the other hand, got my grandfather's sturdy frame, my grandmother's serious demeanor, and a mind that processed the world through logic, not emotion. While Sophia joined the cheerleading squad, I spent Friday nights in the library. While she dated the quarterback, I tutored struggling students in chemistry. Different didn't mean lesser, but Catherine never saw it that way. Medical school became my escape, my vindication. Columbia University Medical Center accepted me with a full scholarship based on my research proposal for innovative trauma care protocols. For 4 years, I buried myself in cadaver labs and clinical rotations, building a life where competence mattered far more than charisma. David finally moved, setting down his whiskey glass with deliberate care. "Evelyn, let's talk about this privately. There's no need to make a scene at your mother's party." "Her party?" I repeated, the irony sharp. "The party I paid for? The venue I booked 6 months ago? The caterer I personally vetted? The string quartet I hired because Catherine once mentioned she loved Vivaldi? But sure, Dad, her party." A murmur rippled through the guests. Mrs. Albright, Catherine's oldest friend, covered her mouth. Noah, Sophia's fiancé, shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by the floral centerpiece. Catherine's face had gone from pale to blotchy red. "How dare you?" she whispered, though in the silent ballroom, it echoed like a shout. "After everything we've given you, everything we've sacrificed, stop." The word came out sharper than I intended. "You've given me a roof over my head until I was 18 and an education fund that barely covered community college. Everything else I earned. My scholarship, my residency, my life. You've sacrificed nothing for me that you wouldn't have sacrificed anyway to maintain your image." The truth, held back for years, poured out like water through a broken dam. "Do you remember my high school graduation? You left halfway through because Sophia had a dance recital. My college graduation? You canceled last minute for a golf tournament. My white coat ceremony at Columbia? You said Philadelphia was too far to drive for just a ceremony. But you flew to Tokyo when Sophia got engaged." Sophia's eyes widened. "That's not fair. You never told us how much those things mattered to you." I shouldn't have needed to tell you. My throat tightened, but I refused to cry. Not here. Not now. Children shouldn't have to beg their parents to show up for the biggest moments of their lives. The coat check attendant peeked around the corner, drawn by the commotion. I caught her eye, and she quickly retreated. Good. Let her gossip. Let everyone in this room carry this story back to their social circles. Let them whisper about the night Evelyn Morrison walked away from the family who never wanted her. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Evelyn, you're upset. These things are better discussed when emotions aren't running so high. My emotions are perfectly calibrated, Uncle Robert. I'd always liked Robert more than most of my relatives. He'd been the one to drive me to the hospital when I'd broken my arm falling out of a tree at 12. Catherine had been at a spa weekend with Sophia. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. David tried again, his lawyer voice activating. You're making decisions that will impact your entire future based on one argument. That's not rational. One argument? The words came out strangled. This isn't about one argument. This is about 28 years of being tolerated instead of loved. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your mother's face light up when your sister walks into a room, then go carefully neutral when you do? To hear her brag about Sophia's achievements to strangers while dismissing yours is nice, but she was always so serious? I turned to face Catherine directly. What did I do that was so unforgivable? Was I not pretty enough? Not social enough? Not the daughter you'd envisioned when you found out you were pregnant? Because I've spent my entire life trying to decode what I did wrong, and I'm done. I'm exhausted. Catherine's jaw worked soundlessly. For the first time in my memory, she had no cutting response, no subtle dig disguised as concern. The silence stretched until it became painful. Mrs. Albright stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. Catherine, maybe Evelyn has a point. I've watched this dynamic for years. And stay out of this, Margaret. Catherine snapped, her composure finally cracking. You have no idea what it's like raising a child who questions everything, who never just goes along, who makes everything so difficult. The words hit me like physical blows, each one confirming what I'd always suspected. So that's it. I was too difficult, too questioning, too much myself instead of whatever malleable doll she wanted to shape. David moved between us, his face strained. Evelyn, your mother's under a lot of stress. Planning this party has been overwhelming. And don't you dare make excuses for her. I interrupted, my voice rising for the first time. I spent my entire childhood making excuses for why she treated me differently. Maybe she's tired. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe she's just having a bad day. But it wasn't one bad day, Dad. It was 10,000 bad days, and you stood by and let it happen. His face went pale. That's not fair. Fair? The laugh that escaped me bordered on hysterical. You want to talk about fair? When I was 13, I won the state science competition. You know what Mom said? That's nice, dear. The same month, Sophia made junior varsity cheerleading, and Mom threw her a surprise party with 50 people. Tell me how that's fair. Sophia's face crumpled. I didn't know that bothered you. You never said anything. I said plenty. I shot back. You just weren't listening. None of you were. I could have screamed from the rooftops about how invisible I felt, and it wouldn't have mattered, because you'd already decided who I was supposed to be in this family. The responsible one. The serious one. The one who didn't need attention or affection because she was too busy being competent. Uncle Robert cleared his throat again, his voice heavy with something that might have been guilt. Evelyn, I think what everyone's trying to say is that we care about you. We want to find a way through this. Then why didn't anyone care 6 hours ago? Or 6 months ago? Or 6 years ago? I looked around at all of them, these people who'd known me my entire life. Every single person in this room has watched Catherine treat me like an afterthought. And not one of you ever said anything. Not at the graduation she missed. Not at the birthday she forgot. Not at the holidays where she made it crystal clear that Sophia was the daughter she actually wanted. Aunt Michelle dabbed at her eyes again, this time with genuine distress. We thought it would get better as you both got older. We thought it was just a phase. A 30-year phase? My voice dripped with sarcasm. At what point does a phase become someone's actual personality? Noah, Sophia's fiancé, spoke up for the first time. Maybe we should all take a step back and, you've been dating my sister for 3 years, I cut him off. How many times have I been invited to dinner with you too? Once. How many times has Sophia called me just to talk? Twice. Both times because she needed something. How many times has anyone in this family reached out to me just because they wanted to see how I was doing? I paused, letting the silence answer for me. The relationship has always been one-sided. I call, I visit, I plan, I show up, and all of you just exist. Secure in the knowledge that I'll keep trying. David ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from my childhood. He did it when depositions weren't going well. What do you want us to say, Evelyn? That we've been bad at this? Fine, we've been bad at this, but families work through their problems. Only if everyone wants to work through them, I countered. You're all acting like I'm the one breaking up the family, but I'm just finally accepting what's always been true. I've been on the outside for 30 years. The only difference is that now I'm choosing to stay there instead of desperately trying to claw my way in. Aunt Michelle stepped forward, her voice gentle. Evelyn, honey, your mother loves you. She just has a difficult time expressing it. 28 years is a long time to work on expression, I replied. Some people take language courses that are shorter. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd, quickly stifled. Noah put his hand on Sophia's shoulder, but she shrugged it off. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, though whether from anger or genuine sadness, I couldn't determine. You're being selfish, Sophia said. This is Mom's birthday. You're ruining it because you need attention. The accusation stung. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I being selfish? Was I manufacturing drama where simple neglect existed? But then I remembered the coat check room. Catherine's face, twisted with genuine disgust, as she'd said those words. I wish you were never born. Not said in the heat of argument. Not shouted during a fight. Whispered with cold certainty, like a truth she'd held back for decades, finally escaping. What happened in the coat check room? David asked, his voice heavy with resignation. He already knew. I realized he'd always known how Catherine felt about me. Catherine's eyes flashed a warning, but I'd moved beyond caring about her secrets. She told me she wished I'd never been born. Because I asked her why she'd seated me at table 12 with the Hendersons instead of at the family table with Sophia and Noah. Gasps echoed around the room. Mrs. Albright's hand flew to her chest. Uncle Robert's face darkened. Even Sophia looked stunned, her certainty wavering. I was trying to balance the seating, Catherine said, her voice rising. The Hendersons specifically asked for interesting company, and you're always so good with awkward conversations. Because I've been managing awkward conversations with my own mother my entire life. I picked up my clutch from a nearby table. I'm a doctor, Catherine. I work 80-hour weeks in a level 1 trauma center. I hold people's hands while they die. I tell parents their children didn't make it. I perform miracles with surgical tools and determination. And you thought I was good enough to entertain your boring guests, but not good enough to sit with my own family? David moved then, crossing the distance between us. For a wild moment, I thought he might hug me. Instead, he held out his hand, a classic negotiation stance. "Evelyn, please, let's go somewhere private and work this out like adults." "Adults acknowledge their children's pain," I said quietly. "Adults apologize when they've caused harm. Adults don't let decades of emotional neglect fester because addressing it might be uncomfortable." I looked past him to Catherine, who stood frozen like a statue of denial. "You got your wish, Mom. As of tonight, I was never born. You have one daughter now. Cherish her, because she's all you have left." Turning toward the exit, I expected someone to stop me. Uncle Robert, maybe, or even Aunt Michelle. But they let me walk, my heels echoing in the silent ballroom with each step. The string quartet stood awkwardly by their instruments, clearly unsure whether to resume playing. The November air hit me like a slap when I pushed through the country club's main doors. My car sat in the parking lot where I'd left it 3 hours earlier, back when I'd still believed this night might somehow be different. Back when I'd hoped my elaborate party planning might finally earn me a genuine smile from the woman who had raised me without ever really seeing me. My phone buzzed before I reached the car. It was Sophia. How could you do this to her on her birthday? I turned the phone off immediately. Whatever messages would follow could wait, or better yet, never be read at all. The drive back to my apartment in Dallas took 40 minutes. I'd moved there after finishing my residency, choosing a neighborhood near the hospital where I'd accepted an attending position. The one-bedroom was small, but it was mine, decorated with furniture I'd selected and art I'd saved for. No family photos graced the walls. No memories of childhood vacations or holiday gatherings, just my medical degree, framed and prominent, and a few landscapes I'd picked up at local galleries. My phone remained off throughout the drive. By the time I parked in my building's underground garage and finally turned it back on, I had 23 missed calls and 47 text messages. I skimmed through them quickly, Sophia alternating between fury and guilt-tripping, David using his measured lawyer tone, Uncle Robert checking if I was okay, Aunt Michelle begging me to reconsider. Nothing from Catherine. I deleted everything without reading past the first line of each message. Then, I started blocking numbers. My thumb hovered over each contact for only a second before I pressed the button. Catherine, David, Sophia, Uncle Robert, Aunt Michelle, every family member who might serve as a messenger. Then I blocked them on social media, email, every possible avenue of contact I could think of. Inside my apartment, I changed out of the navy cocktail dress I'd bought specifically for tonight, hanging it carefully in my closet. Tomorrow, I'd donate it to a local charity thrift store. No reason to keep clothes associated with memories I wanted to forget. Sleep didn't come easily. I lay in bed watching the city lights paint patterns on my ceiling, replaying the night over and over. Had I overreacted? The doubt gnawed at me until exhaustion finally won. Morning brought clarity and a renewed sense of purpose. I made coffee and began the practical work of cutting ties. First, I logged into my bank account and transferred the funds I'd set aside for family gifts throughout the year into my student loan payment account. $7,000 that would now go toward my own future instead of buying affection from people who'd never truly wanted it. Next, I opened my email and composed a message to my attorney, Jennifer Riley. She handled my residency contract negotiations and had mentioned she also dealt with family law. Need consultation regarding legally distancing from family? Please send available appointment times. The messages on my phone had multiplied overnight despite the blocks I'd put in place. They must have tried before I completed the blocking process. I deleted everything without reading past the first line of each message. My shift at the hospital started at 3, giving me time to meal prep for the week and catch up on medical journals. Routine felt soothing after the chaos of last night. Dice vegetables, sauté chicken, portion meals into containers. The rhythm of normal life, the life I built without their help or approval. Dr. Miller cornered me during my shift. His kind face creased with concern. "You look exhausted, Evelyn. Everything okay?" I finished checking a patient's chart before answering. "Family drama. Nothing that won't resolve with distance and time. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. My door's open if you need to talk. The ER was mercifully busy that night, giving me no time to dwell on my thoughts. A cardiac arrest at 6, 3 motor vehicle accident victims at 8, a stabbing at 11. I moved through each case with practiced efficiency, my hands steady, my mind focused. This was where I belonged, where my competence spoke louder than my inability to fit into Catherine's perfect family picture. During a brief lull around midnight, I found myself in the break room with Dr. Sanchez, who was working the overnight shift. She looked at me over her coffee cup, her dark eyes thoughtful. "You've got that look," she said. "The one people get when they're processing something big." "Family stuff," I said, not ready to elaborate. She nodded, stirring sugar into her coffee. "I cut my father out of my life 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made, even though everyone told me I'd regret it. Sometimes the people who share your DNA are the ones holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be." Her words settled over me like a warm blanket. "Does it get easier?" "The guilt gets quieter," she said. "The doubt fades. And one day you wake up and realize you're not angry anymore. You're just free. That's when you know you made the right choice." Jennifer called me back during my break at 2 in the morning. "Got your email. Can you come by my office tomorrow at 4? I had a cancellation." "I'll be there." Her office occupied the 15th floor of a downtown building with a view of the bay. Jennifer herself was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed and efficient. She listened without interrupting as I explained the situation, occasionally making notes on her legal pad. "So, you want a complete severance?" she said when I finished. "No contact, no financial entanglement, essentially treating the relationship as dissolved." "Yes. That's more complicated than you might think. Family law doesn't really have a mechanism for adult children to divorce their parents. You can cut contact, certainly, but legal separation isn't a thing outside of specific circumstances like abuse severe enough for protective orders." My disappointment must have shown because she held up a hand. "However, we can take steps to ensure clear boundaries and protect you from unwanted contact or financial complications down the line. Change of beneficiaries on any accounts. Medical power of attorney to someone you trust instead of default. Next of kin. Explicit instructions to your hospital regarding who can receive information about you. We can also draft a cease and desist letter if the contact becomes harassment." "Do it all," I said. "Whatever it takes to make this clean." Over the next 2 weeks, Jennifer and I worked through the legal maze of untangling myself from family connections. I changed my emergency contacts at the hospital, updated my will to leave everything to medical charities, and assigned medical power of attorney to my colleague, Dr. Laura Hayes, who'd become a close friend during residency. The hardest part had been blocking their numbers that first night, but I was glad I'd done it immediately. The clean break felt necessary, final. Thanksgiving came and went. I worked a double shift, trading with Dr. Sanchez so she could spend the day with her kids. The hospital cafeteria served turkey with all the fixings, and I ate with the other holiday orphans of the medical staff. Nobody asked why I was there instead of with family. In medicine, you learned quickly that family came in many forms. Christmas approached with relentless cheer. My apartment building decorated its lobby with a massive tree and piped carols through the speakers. Patients came through the ER wearing Santa hats and reindeer antlers, their holiday spirit undimmed by whatever injury or illness brought them to us. The hospital social worker, Eleanor, caught me during a shift change one evening. She was in her 60s, with silver hair and the kind of wisdom that came from decades of helping people through their worst moments. "Dr. Morrison, do you have a minute?" I followed her into a small consultation room, wondering if this was about a patient. Instead, she gestured for me to sit. "I heard through the grapevine that you're spending the holidays alone by choice this year," she said gently. "I run a support group for people navigating estrangement from family. We meet twice a month. I thought you might be interested." The offer caught me off guard. I'm handling it okay. I'm sure you are, Eleanor agreed. But handling something alone and having support while you handle it are two different things. No pressure, but if you change your mind, we meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Meeting room 3, 7 o'clock. After she left, I sat there for a long moment, staring at the business card she'd left on the table. Maybe I didn't need it. Or maybe pride was keeping me from accepting help I actually could use. I bought myself a small potted pine tree and decorated it with handmade ornaments from a craft fair. Each one representing something I'd accomplished that year: a tiny stethoscope for my promotion to senior attending, a book for the research paper I'd published, a running shoe for the half marathon I'd completed. Markers of a life lived fully, if alone. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, a manila envelope arrived at my apartment via courier. No return address, but the legal firm name on the delivery slip made my stomach drop. I signed for it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter from David's firm, though not written by David himself. One of his partners had drafted it, probably to avoid conflict of interest. Catherine and David Morrison were formally requesting that I attend a family mediation session to resolve outstanding issues and restore familial harmony. I read it twice, then fed it through my paper shredder. Christmas Eve brought snow, the first real accumulation of the season. The city transformed into something almost magical, lights reflecting off white-covered streets. I walked to the hospital for my shift, enjoying the quiet of early morning before traffic destroyed the pristine blanket. Dr. Laura Hayes found me in the doctor's lounge during a rare lull around 9 o'clock. "Your family's in the waiting room." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "What?" "Your parents and your sister. They've been here for an hour. Security's keeping them from coming back, but they're insisting they need to see you." The coffee suddenly tasted like ash. "Tell security to ask them to leave. If they refuse, tell security to call the police for trespassing." Laura's eyebrows rose, but she didn't question me. "You got it." 20 minutes later, my pager went off. Security wanted me to come to the waiting room. Against my better judgment, I went, flanked by Laura and 2 security guards. Catherine, David, and Sophia sat in a cluster of plastic chairs near the entrance. They looked wrong, somehow, out of place in their expensive winter coats among the sick and injured, filling the waiting room. Catherine's makeup was perfect despite the hour. Sophia wore her engagement ring prominently displayed. David had his lawyer face on. "Evelyn," he started, standing. "We need to talk." "No," I said simply. "We don't." Catherine rose as well, her expression a carefully crafted mask of concern. "Sweetheart, this has gone on long enough. It's Christmas Eve. We should be together as a family." The endearment made my skin crawl. She'd never called me sweetheart. Not in 28 years. "You need to leave. This is a hospital, not a place for family reunions." "We're not leaving until you agree to talk to us," Sophia said, her voice carrying across the waiting room. Several patients looked over with interest. "You can't just walk away from us." "I already did." I gestured to the security guards. "These gentlemen will escort you out. If you return, you'll be arrested for trespassing. I've already informed hospital administration that you're not welcome here." David's lawyer facade cracked slightly. "Evelyn, be reasonable. We made mistakes. We want to make things right. You had 28 years to make things right." My voice stayed level, clinical. The time for reconciliation ended when Catherine said she wished I'd never been born. You don't come back from that. You don't fix that with a conversation in a hospital waiting room on Christmas Eve. Catherine's mask finally slipped, showing the anger beneath. "You're being a child. Life doesn't stop because your feelings got hurt. Family means working through problems, not running away." "You're absolutely right," I agreed. Family does mean working through problems. But I was never family to you. I was an obligation. A disappointing first draft before you got Sophia right. And I'm done pretending otherwise. I turned to the security guards. Please escort them out. If they resist, call the police. As they moved forward, Sophia grabbed my arm. Evelyn, please. I'm getting married in March. I want you there. I want my sister at my wedding. For just a moment, I wavered. The little girl who'd looked up to me despite Catherine's clear preference flickered in my memory. The teenager who'd asked me for homework help. The young woman who'd called me crying when her first serious boyfriend cheated. But then I remembered the ballroom. Sophia's immediate defense of Catherine. Her accusation that I was being selfish and dramatic. She'd chosen her side. I gently removed her hand from my arm. I hope you have a beautiful wedding, Sophia. I really do, but I won't be there. The security guards led them toward the exit. Catherine went stiffly, David with resigned cooperation. Sophia looked back once, her face crumbling before the doors closed behind them. Laura put her hand on my shoulder. You okay, getting there? I am, I said, and found I meant it. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of patients and procedures. When I finally emerged from the hospital at 8 the next morning, Christmas Day proper, the snow had stopped and the world looked scrubbed clean. My apartment welcomed me with blessed silence. I slept until 3, then made myself a simple dinner of pasta and salad. No turkey, no elaborate feast, just food that tasted good and required minimal effort. Afterward, I curled up on my couch with a medical thriller I'd been meaning to read, my small tree twinkling in the corner. My phone, which I'd turned back on after blocking everyone, buzzed with a single notification. An email from Jennifer. Evelyn, just wanted to check in. Hope you're having a peaceful holiday. All the documentation is finalized. You're as legally separated from your family as we can make you. If they continue contact after this, we have grounds for harassment charges. You're free. Free, I whispered. The word settled over me like the snow outside, covering everything that came before. I wasn't an orphan. I wasn't abandoned. I was free. 6 months later, my life had solidified into a new normal. Work consumed most of my time, but I'd started building a social life outside the hospital. Laura and I had dinner every Tuesday. I joined a book club that met monthly at a coffee shop near my apartment. I'd even started dating a paramedic named Liam, who made me laugh and didn't ask too many questions about my family. The hospital promoted me to Assistant Director of Emergency Medicine, a position that came with more administrative responsibility, but also more influence over how we treated patients. I implemented new protocols for trauma care that reduced mortality rates by 12%. My research paper on improved triage systems got accepted to a major medical journal. I bought myself a condo downtown with a view of the bay, my first real home. Every piece of furniture I selected myself, every paint color I chose without input or criticism. The space felt authentically mine in a way nothing ever had before. Sophia's wedding came and went in March. I didn't attend, though I heard through hospital gossip that one of my colleagues had been invited and gone. Apparently, it was lovely. Sophia looked beautiful. Catherine cried during the ceremony. I felt nothing hearing about it, which felt like its own kind of victory. Then one Tuesday evening in early September, Laura and I were finishing dinner at our usual restaurant when she got a strange look on her face. Don't freak out, but your mother just walked in. I turned slowly. Sure enough, Catherine stood near the hostess stand, scanning the restaurant. She looked thinner than I remembered, her skin carrying a grayish tinge that my medical training immediately flagged. When her eyes found mine, she said something to the hostess and started walking toward our table. Should I head her off? Laura asked quietly. No, I heard myself say. It's okay. Catherine reached our table and stopped, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Evelyn, I was hoping I might run into you here. I've been checking this restaurant for the past few weeks, knowing you work nearby and might come here for dinner. That's borderline stalking, I observed calmly. What do you want? She flinched at my tone, and I felt a grim satisfaction. To talk. To apologize. Your father and I have been in therapy, trying to understand where we went wrong. 10 months too late. I took a sip of my wine, maintaining eye contact. You should go. I'm dying, Catherine blurted out. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. They're giving me 6 months, maybe less. The words hung in the air between us. Laura inhaled sharply. The restaurant noise seemed to fade, replaced by a ringing in my ears. I took a breath, then another. My medical training kicked in, analyzing prognosis and treatment options automatically. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. She was right about the timeline, possibly optimistic. The grayish tinge to her skin, the weight loss, the symptoms aligned with someone who had been diagnosed recently, but whose disease had likely been progressing silently for months. I'm sorry to hear that, I said finally, and meant it. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. I know I have no right to ask, but I'd like a chance to make peace with you before I go, to explain, to apologize properly. I've wasted so much time being bitter about things that don't matter, and now I'm running out of time entirely. Part of me wanted to feel triumph, vindication. The universe had delivered justice in its own cruel way. But sitting there looking at my mother's face, I felt only a bone-deep weariness. I'm a doctor, I said quietly. I can recommend excellent oncologists. I can even make some calls if you'd like, get you in to see specialists who don't normally take new patients. But I can't be your daughter anymore. That door closed the night you told me you wished I'd never been born. I didn't mean it, Catherine whispered. I was angry and hurt, and I lashed out. I've said terrible things to many people when I'm angry. I thought you knew I didn't mean it. The problem isn't that you said it. I sat down my wineglass carefully. The problem is that some part of you did mean it, at least in that moment. And even if you didn't, the fact that you could say something that cruel to your own daughter tells me everything I need to know about what you actually think of me. She reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled back. Evelyn, please. I'm begging you. Don't let me die without making this right. You can't make it right. The words came out gentler than I expected. There's no making right 28 years of emotional neglect. There's no apology that will undo the damage of growing up knowing your mother saw you as a disappointment. I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm glad you're finally examining your behavior. But your epiphany came because you're dying, not because you genuinely saw me and valued me. And I can't build a relationship on that foundation. Tears streamed down Catherine's face, carving tracks through her foundation. So that's it? You're just going to let me die alone without forgiveness? You have David and Sophia, I pointed out. You're not alone. You have exactly the family you always wanted. She stood there for another moment, seeming to age before her eyes. Then she nodded slowly and turned away, walking back toward the exit with careful, measured steps. Laura reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That was incredibly hard. Are you okay? I don't know yet, I admitted. Ask me tomorrow. But when tomorrow came, I found I felt lighter somehow. The confrontation I'd been dreading for months was over, and I'd held my ground. Catherine had tried to use her illness as leverage for reconciliation, and I'd refused to take the bait. Harsh, maybe, but honest. 3 months later, Uncle Robert called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Evelyn, it's your uncle. Before you hang up, please just listen for 30 seconds. I waited. Your mother passed away yesterday morning. The funeral is Saturday at 2. I'm not calling to guilt you or convince you to come. I just thought you had a right to know. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. I appreciate it. For what it's worth, he added, I think you were right about all of it. Catherine loved you in her own broken way, but she never knew how to show it. And by the time she wanted to try, it was too late. We hung up. I stood in my kitchen for a long moment, then called Laura and told her I needed to take a few days off. I didn't attend the funeral. Instead, I drove to the coast and spent the weekend in a small bed and breakfast, walking on the beach and thinking about everything that had happened. About the little girl who tried so hard to earn love that was never coming. About the woman I'd become despite that absence, not because of it. On Sunday, before driving home, I stopped at a flower shop and bought a single white rose. I took it to a cliff overlooking the ocean and tossed it into the wind, watching it tumble down toward the crashing waves. I forgive you, I said to the wind, to Catherine, to myself. Not for you. For me. The rose disappeared into the foam, and I turned back toward my car, toward my life, toward the future I'd built from nothing but determination and self-worth. I was Evelyn Morrison. I was enough. Do you think some relationships are simply beyond repair, no matter how much time passes?